Society by going into history. That was an extract from the 26-minute keynote address by Dr. Hussaini Abdu, the former country director, Plan Nigeria International, at the AkweyaTV Award that was held on Wednesday, the 26th of December 2020 at the Ladi Kwali Hall, Sheraton Hotels and Towers, Abuja. Dr. Abdu, in his keynote address, revealed that whatever is happening today is rooted in history. He, however, said that many mistakenly trace the history of Nigeria from the colonial era and structure, stressing the fact that there is a need to go beyond colonial rule to see how the different ethnic groups lived, related, and existed before the advent of colonialism. Welcome to yet another edition of AkweyaTV Spotlight Show. My name is Idajo Aja. Today's highlight is on the keynote address by Dr. Hussaini Abdu at the AkweyaTV Awards. It was insightful, educative, and comforting. Watch.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I like to stand on existing protocol. It's a lazy way of saying it in Nigeria. If you don't want to go through the routine of this long list of compliment that we go through in our conversations, so we say we stand on existing protocol. But permit me to say good morning to our traditional rulers and leaders who came from the different communities of the Akweya people. I want to welcome you to Abuja, and also our distinguished chairman and Air Vice Marshal Morgan. Nice to meet you and see you here. In my previous callings, I used to be part of the system you retired from, but as an academics. I used to teach in the Nigerian Defense Academy until I was found unsuitable for the academy and asked to leave. So I left in peace, but I didn't leave without going to court. So I left and we parted at the Supreme Court with the academy, and I'm told I was the first person ever to have tried to sue the academy. I did that, of course, and I did that to send a lesson that Nigeria belongs to every one of us. And that's the conversation we'll be having this morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Speaking on media, culture, and society, trends in the construction of our social reality. And this, for me, was a struggle. And I think I had the privilege of the MD of AkweyaTV giving me a theme. They just gave me a theme and say, coin your topic or the title of what you want to speak on. So I struggled to actually find the appropriate theme for this presentation. But I was very clear with my objectives. And basically, is to construct the relationship between media and our national diversity and some of the contemporary realities of Nigeria. As far back as 1916, a very prominent American political scientist said, society not only continue to exist in transmission by communication, but it may fairly be said to exist in transmission in communication. So we don't exist only by the transmission of communication, but we also exist in transmission in communication. So basically, what I was trying to drive at is that what makes us a people, what makes us a society, is the trend and the character of communications that exist within that society. And therefore, scholars of communication have long noted that small groups large communities, and vast institutions, all the things that makes them, that glue them together, is communication. However, there are different forms of communication, and that's what is important for us to understand. At the broadcast level, communication is an exchange of meaning between people using symbols. Exchange of meaning between people using symbols. And there are three ways and three symbols we use. Verbal symbols, like the one I'm having now, we are communicating. Written, meaning written words. And lastly, sign communications. And this has been the major source of our glues. The language we speak, our ethnic groups, are part of the process of the symbols of that communication. So the mass media, and I'm speaking in the context of AkweyaTV before I get to the realities of our conversations around Nigeria. The mass media is an important institution with significant potential to influence the thinking of the mass number of people. In fact, the ideas of exchange in organizational communication or interpersonal communications are often established, reinforced, or negated by messages in mass communications. This is what it means in every society that we said we exist in transmission, in communications. Different types of communication influence our society. However, the mass media are also shaped and influenced by the society. Because what you hear in the public domain is that the mass media shapes the society. That is just half truth. The society also shapes the mass media. So the character of the mass media you have in our society is a reflection of the character of our society. So, AkweyaTV may come in as a mass media, but it cannot only influence the society of the Akweya people. The society of the Akweya people will in turn influence the AkweyaTV. And this is how it operates wherever you go and anywhere in the world. It is not correct to say that the society exists within the mass media or being controlled by the mass media. Social structures are too powerful for mass media to completely govern or control. Many mass media products transcend social structure to influence multiple societies, and even in societies that heavily censor mass media and news like scandals and all that still pervade such societies. A few years ago, I think the MD did mention one of my books, which was on Clash of Identities. And basically what I try to do in that book is to explain the phenomenon of ethnic and religious conflicts in northern Nigeria. And I think lately, as a political scientist, I've refused to just interpret social dynamics on a day-to-day basis. I try to understand problems and challenges of our society by going into history. And that's what got me closer to historians. And that I feel that whatever is happening today can be deeply located in history. And understanding history allows us to help understand our problems and also be able to explain such problems. History is a journey. There is no end to it. And culture itself is a process. It is never static. It depends on which you decided to pick. And at what point you believe your history starts and ends. But what worries me about Nigeria today is the impression that our history started with colonial rule. We have decided to reduce the history of the Nigerian people to the history of colonial rule. So even when there are intercommunal tensions and differences, our quickest solution is to go to the National Archives and go and pick what a colonial officer wrote about that community And that becomes the basis for addressing a very important community issue. So I decided to understand the challenges of ethnic and religious conflicts in northern Nigeria, to go beyond the colonial structure, to appreciate how we related and existed even before the colonial time. But we have also seen how over the years our history is being interpreted and reinterpreted by the understanding of the media. The media has become a very important instrument of not only building a better community, but another way of also telling your own story. The media is the conventional institution of the media. It's too busy reporting itself and reporting other people to report minorities. It is too busy to report minorities. And therefore, the minorities actually have an obligation to create their own institutions, their media institutions, so that they can also be able to report themselves. And for me, this is where the trajectory of AkweyaTV is actually located. You don't expect, unless if something sensational happens, CNN will not come and report Akwaya people. If something big, something massive, something sensational happens, it will come. In fact, even the closest, the NTA or other private TV stations are busy reporting politicians that they don't have the time to actually report you as a people. And so it becomes compelling that for minorities to actually be able to engage and negotiate and have a better conversations within a very complex society of Nigeria, they must also have their own media institutions. And it is these media institutions that will project them and allow them to have a better conversations. It is true, Nigeria is a product of colonial rule. We can't talk today about the entity, the country we call Nigeria, without making reference to colonial rule. But the social contacts that existed between the people of Nigeria, people that are located within the entity we call Nigeria today, is not a creation of colonial rule. And I think that was the message that the chairman tried to pass earlier when he was opening this session. That people have always related, there have been strong social contacts amongst people that we categorize as Nigerians today, even before the colonial time. But they were not relating as Nigerians. They were relating as people of different societies. They trade, they fight wars, they raid slaves, they intermarried, and they built societies. But when we construct, when we have a national conversations, as if we never knew each other until the colonialists came, this helps to diminish us as people. And one of the major things that the colonial authorities did, and some of us who goes into history, we say there is no colonial rule without anthropology. They spend a lot of time in understanding the different society that we're trying to govern. And that is why barely less than 2,000 white people could actually be able to manage the affairs of millions of people. As at probably 1954, there were about 26 million people in northern Nigeria in 1954. But we didn't have up to 1,000 colonial officials. There were not up to 1,000 colonial officials. And they managed the affairs of the country. I'm not saying they managed it well. But they managed the affairs of the country in their own way. They have an objective. They have a reason why they were here. And they were able to achieve that objective. They may not have been able to achieve our own objectives, They were not here for us. They were here for themselves. And therefore, they were able to achieve their objective with that minimum number of people. Today, our local governments, a small local government will probably have about 5,000 workers. But no work is being done. You only go when salaries are due. And now that they are not even making table payments again, you don't even need to go. You just expect your alert. What happened? What did we get wrong? And why are we in this crisis? Nigeria has always been a very deeply interconnected society. And most part of Nigeria that you go, I have this argument that you may probably not find an entity that is 100% alone. But there have been long historical process of interlinks and relationship. But we have also seen how since the colonial period, politics has also continued to pull people apart. One major issue that the colonial authorities tries to deal with, and that up to today as Nigerians we also struggle to manage, is the question of managing diversity. Nigeria is a diverse country. We are more than 400 ethnic groups, and we are still counting, because we are getting new ethnic groups emerging. It is not that they've just been recently been created. No, it's because they have operated under the cover of some larger ethnic groups. And therefore their identity have been historically lost. But along the line, they are beginning to assert those identities, and their names are coming up. So that's what we are calling emerging ethnic groups. They were there. Not that they've never been there. They even have their language, they have their culture, they have everything. But in the process of colonial documentation, they've been designed under a cover of other ethnic groups. And they're lost. So now they are coming up. So the number is increasing in different parts of the country. And we are also seeing one number where we are getting ethnic group breaking and becoming smaller. We are also dealing in a century of pan-ethnic structures emerging. And I think I granted an interview to AkweyaTV about a month ago, and I was talking about the identity of the Yoruba, for instance. And that the whole name of a Yoruba ethnic group was a 19th century thing. Yoruba never existed as an ethnic group before 19th century. They existed as Oyo, existed as Egba, existed as Ijebu people, but there was not a pan-Yoruba name. It was a 19th century thing. The whole region of the Yoruba people were called Nago, Elago, and it maybe sounds very close to Alago. That was, if we check 19th century maps, that's what that region was called. It wasn't hard. But the Yoruba as a name was like